Let's see if I can do this without you guys getting in my friggin' way all day. Yeah? Yeah. 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 Maybe a little bit more of an angle there. Any more, you're gonna fall backwards, you know. Man. Yeah. That's just gonna have to do for now. Alright. Don't want anybody to have a hissy fit because I'm not watching chat. There we are. Hi.
So this is the paperwork. I got a hold of the extended warranty again. They're only approving
Okie dokie. Got some parts approved here, so let me just put my order through right now so I don't forget. All right. I'll be with you guys in just a minute. And
that.
pocket flashlight, check. Pack of smokes, check. All right. Got my giblet protectors. Okay, so we're going to be doing a transmission repair here. Francisco, hey, how you doing? Oh, somebody used my toolbox as a catch-all. You get to go away now. All right, we got to get this mid pipe out of my way. Don't want that mid pipe there anymore. I already got my transmission drained, so that's not going to be a problem for me. And we're going to find out how dorked up these exhaust bolts are. Oh, that was nice and easy. All right, good. This is the sign of a good start. But I want to hear good crisps. Oh, some hard squeaks. Yeah, 12 mil wrench. Let's see how many people bother me today. My guess is 3. 3 people are going to bother me while I work on this. And I'm not going to count the first one that already came up. All right, let's get rid of this. We gotta manipulate this rear exhaust a little bit. I need this all out of my way. Uh-oh. Let's get on the Wi-Fi. I see the Wi-Fi signal fluctuating a little bit. All right. Okay, there we go. It's safe right there. It's not causing any harm. 12 millimeter ratchet and a pry bar. Get our drive shaft. I already got my alignment marks right there, so I put it back together correctly. It's always a good idea to mark your drive shaft to your rear diff so you can bolt it up in the same place. Hey Juan, what's going on? Oh, you got the hammer, dude? Nice. How's that hammer feel, man? Did you crack any eggs open with it? You know, learning with Juan, he's in the chat right now. He was on a live stream with us on Saturday, and he won a what'd you win? Like a 48 ounce ball peen split shot hammer. I don't know. It was like a $70 hammer that kid won. Absolutely amazing. Ah. All right, yeah, 47 ounce hammer. There you go. Can I teach you something? Yes, I will be teaching you something today. First thing I'm teaching you is you're going to take a drive shaft off. You better mark the position on it to your spindle on your differential. There's a lesson. Okay? You want to do that because over time they kind of marry together the two surfaces. They create a little bit of a marriage, all right? They wear in together a little bit, especially if you're up there in the old rusty belt. Then it becomes more pronounced. It's a very, very good practice to do that with anything that has a married surface and rotate. So I do it with rotors, drive shafts, everything. Just a good behavior to be in. Don't let anybody make fun of you for doing it. I'm going to get under here. I'm going to take my drive shaft out of my transmission. She's a kind of sticky in there, huh? All right. We're going to give it some influence there. Not a problem. A little tap, tap, taparoo will help it out. Wow. The tap, tap, taparoo is not doing it for her today. There we go. Now we're getting a little separation. Perfect. All right, so now I'm going to slip her out of the transmission. It's going to make a little bit of a mess. This carrier bearing does not want to fit around this stupid bracket. Really, you want an extension? I can't believe you want an extension. You're still selfish. We just had everybody's been trading in their pneumatic impacts and getting all these cordless tools. They're doing tires and stuff, and oh my gosh, everything is so noisy in here. All you hear is the cladding of all these electric tools. It's giving me a headache today. All right, that should be enough to wiggle her through, and it's out. Perfect. Set that on the ground. Now, I can put in my seal there to keep that transmission from leaking anymore. Now we can start working on this tail housing. Yeah, that's pretty good. So I think what I'm going to start doing, because I'm not really digging this vertical live stream crap too much, just because of the fact that one, it doesn't record in a very well. You guys can see the camera quality; it's in standard def, and you got these OLED 8K monitors. That's not fair to you. So I'm thinking if I can figure it out, I'm gonna get the GoPro live streaming again, and that's gonna broadcast in 4K. It'll be horizontal so you can see more, and I know that that'll discourage some folks because you guys like this vertical stuff so you can keyboard warrior this stuff. But the horizontal allows me to stream in a higher quality and give you some better picture of what's going on around here. So I'll do one camera that has the vertical with a message that says jump to the channel and get the high def version. Then I'll disrespect all those people on the vertical by not answering them in the chat. But you know what that amounts to? Buying more camera stuff. The wife's already mad that I bought a 5-gas analyzer. She doesn't need to know that I'm buying more things. Because surprisingly, in order to do a stream, I got my iPhone Pro Max doing the recording, seeing you the video. Then I got an iPad off to the side so I can see the chat and see what's going on. I got Juan blowing it up in the chat. There you go, man. Juan's crazy in the chat. He's like a super fan. Um, trying to get an artist, you know, find you guys like a bumper sticker or something that I can send out. So if you join the channel, I can send you a bumper sticker. Because you got subscribing and then you got joining, and joining's only 99 cents, and that's just pretty much me asking you for some finance help. but I want to return more to you. So I am setting up a school program now. I'm going to be getting paid members into a real car school. You guys are going to take real car school classes from home. So super excited about that. These people absolutely have like no clue what I'm sending them because they're like, "Oh, you only got like 10 members." I'm like, "You just wait. You just wait." I said, "I'll have 1,000 members." Like we're gonna have the Baja Automotive Academy pretty soon. But it's a pretty sweet place. I went there for a year. It's all online and it's in the afternoons, so it doesn't disrupt your workday schedule unless you're one of those people who have the graveyard shift or you work afternoons, in which case, I'm sorry. All right, going to keep a little bit of support here on the transmission with the floor jack. We're going to get our tail housing off now. But yeah, we're going to be going to CTI school. I went there for 2 years. I was really happy with the instructors, really happy with the learning program. And I tell you what, I learned more in 2 years with them than I did in 10 years on the job. And when I'm talking about learning, I'm talking about understanding and troubleshooting, getting my core fundamentals highly tuned. Because that's something that's really hard to do in the shop nowadays. You join a garage and you're all excited. You're like, yeah, I'm going to get all this on the job training and I'm going to do like all this crazy diagnostics. You see stuff on TV, you see it on the Discovery Channel, and you get so pumped up. And all you learn how to do is brake struts and tires. And you think that this job is a piece of crap and nobody wants to teach you anything. There's truth to that. Yeah, people don't want to teach you anything because the people who have to teach you have to stop working, and if they're not working, they're not making money. If you don't know, mechanics, uh, we're paid on job completion. If you don't complete a job, you don't get paid. So if I'm slowing down to hold your hand and teach you something, I'm not getting paid to do it. And some shops are understanding of that, and so they compromise. So they'll tell their better techs that actually want to take an apprentice, and they'll say, "Hey, I'm going to give you an apprentice, and he's going to help you work, and he's going to do some odds and ends for you to make your hours complete. But I need you to teach this dude something." I was in that program for 4 years. I trained up about 6 people. They came out to be really, really good technicians. I really do miss it. That was an exciting. It was an exciting time, and I was making a lot of money. I was still doing about 30, 40 hours of my own work, but then I was getting bonuses off of my apprentice's work. But unfortunately, you know, when all of a sudden the mechanic is pulling down like $140,000, managers go like, "Mhm, you make more than me." I'm like, "Well, yeah, dude. Like, I'm teaching people, but I taught them so good that I was bonusing off the work that they did, and the managers didn't think I would be able to bonus like that." All right, so now we gotta get this little guy off. We want to be very, very careful. Okay, very careful. Make sure she's got a lot of good support there. right on these flat edges. We just want to give her a little tap, tap, taparoo. There's a little lip right here. Same thing. And we're going to do this all the way around it. We don't want to go chiseling in there trying to separate things because we're going to mar up the mating surfaces. That's not what we want to do. So my goal right now is just to kind of get some separation going. And I can see a hairline crack happening. That's good. Also be aware that this is an aluminum case, all right? Aluminum, it can be strong, okay? If you mold it correctly, it can be a very, very strong metal. But at the same time, it can be very brittle. Hopefully you're not a flat rate technician because it's going to take you a long time talking. No, not so much. I'm a flat rate technician. And I'm comfortable with talking and working at the same time, sir. But, thank you for your insults and your criticism. The flat rate system has its pros and cons. That's all I can say. When it's good, it's good. When it's bad, it's bad. There we go. So we have steel guide pins in this aluminum. Careful negotiation, okay? So we're pulling a lot up from the bottom, which means that there's going to be a lot of scissor force that gets applied to the top. So to counteract that, I'm going to get my rubber mallet here. And we're just going to push it back in, and then we'll come back out. And we'll create this little exercise of going in and out a couple of times. And that's all going to transfer up there. Oh yeah, got some good wobble in there. This aluminum stuff can sometimes be a little bit feisty. Don't let it get to you. Matut, just found this channel. Hey, you're welcome. I disappeared for a few weeks. Just had some work that had to be done. Went to Chicago for some Bosch training. And I tell you what, trying to get back on the YouTube. It's not easy. I don't know what it was, but as soon as I just got on one more, I don't know. I guess I just tried to do too much fancy stuff for a big comeback, and I said, screw it. Let's just go back to normal. Watch me work stuff. Just trying to compete with all those other people that can make fancy animations and stuff like that. We're just gonna make it on who I am. Just an average Joe doing the best that he can do. Okay, so we're gonna pull this tail housing off, and keep in mind, this was designed to come apart with the transmission on the ground stays facing up, okay, vertically. So we're gonna pull this out, and see, the things are gonna come out. That's okay. That's okay. Slow, slow, slow. See, the job to do this requires that we pull the transmission out so we can put everything back together correctly. But I've done this a couple of times already. We're gonna cheese it. I'm pretty comfortable cheesing this job. I kind of like doing this job, especially even if it's warranty, I'll do it. So this right here, this is a this is a spacer, not a spacer. This is a measured shim that would go right here against the tail housing to take up any forward and backward slack. Okay, so you need to keep track of that stuff and don't lose it. Our torsion bearing, which was right here, that already came off. Where's our, oh, another bearing. So all that went there. So I would only recommend you doing the cheese way of doing it like this if you've done it right at least once before, because you want to have a mental idea of how this stuff comes apart. If you don't have that mental idea of how this stuff comes apart, when you try to put it together, you're going to break something. Or you better have somebody who knows how visually this goes together so you don't mess it up. If you think you can conquer it, great, more power to you. But I'd hate to see you cause any damage to the transmission. So what I just took out of here was our center clutch pack assembly for the all-wheel drive system. This is what controls the power from the to the rear of the vehicle. The front of the vehicle is hard locked, is always engaged. Okay, that's got a transfer driven gear back right here. So on this shaft, so this splines right here into the main shaft. When this spins, okay, this main gear right here is turning. It's turning this forward shaft right here for front wheel drive. When the TCM wants to send power to the rear, that's what these clutch packs are for. And there's line pressure that comes from the valve body. It locks this up and it sends power to the rear. When you want to pull power away from the rear, then it loosens up the line pressure and these clutch packs slip in place. Why is it failing? Well, clutches are just wearing out. They're not grabbing like they should. And the easiest way you can test to see if your center diff is going out on an all-wheel drive Subaru is to go do a figure eight in a parking lot. You don't have to go super fast, okay? We're talking like 5 miles an hour, just figure eight maneuver. And if it feels like the back end is skipping around, that means that your center diff is worn out or failing. Dude, Juan is tearing it up, deleting some messages. Jesse Lopez, Chicago, was that the EV class? Yeah, I was at the EV class. I was auditing that class. auditing it and giving Bosch some feedback, some criticism on how it should be taught. It's a their average. It's supposed to be like a 3-day class, but because it's kind of on the expensive side for a shop, they're trying to find a way to get it into a 1-day class so they can workshop it across the country for a year, get everybody on board with the idea of it, and then come back next year and say, okay, now we got you a teaser of the 1-day class. Now we want to have a 3-day. So, you got to build a customer base, right? That's what it's all about. So they're not trying to shortchange anybody. They're just trying to find a way to get the most out of a situation because not a lot of shops are that eager to get any kind of EV training. They would rather just call some local diag dude and have him come out and tell him what to do. But quite frankly, that little EV class they put together with the cut in half Prius, that was a that was really fun. At least for me, it was fun. I mean, I like going to school because when you go to school with other people that want to be there, that's when you start trading secrets. So you meet up, you meet up in a class where you're learning about something and you're talking about theory of operation and the physics of how something works. And when you start talking about it, somebody else says, "Okay, well you can do it that way. Did you know you could also do it this way?" And you go, "No, why?" It's a great way to just collaborate. And I know that these YouTube channels and Facebook groups, they're also great places to collaborate, but you really just got to kind of get each other in a room, start talking about how to figure things out and how to test for things, because it's really really cool to listen how somebody else's brain works. Because there was some thought process of like, wow, I never thought I could, do it that way. And it's also cool learning how to test something a couple different ways in the event that your preferred way of testing something might have some questionable results. Maybe you doubt your test. Okay, so how can you fact check your own test? Well, you got test. You went to a class and you learned how you could do the same test with different test equipment. So I like stuff like that. It's one of the reasons why I got a 5-gas analyzer. I never thought I needed one because I thought that 5-gas analyzers were just for doing emissions checks for emission counties. But when I took an advanced theory class on fuel trim and combustion, and I'm listening to this instructor talk about how he he uses the 5-gas check to validate misfires, to validate differences between O2s and catalytics, and just have that extra piece of concrete evidence. Like, yeah, you can do a lot of stuff by looking at PID information, but it's nice when you're trying to sell $200-300 jobs, if not $2,000-3,000 jobs, if it results in a catalytic, to have that equipment to reassure your customer, letting them know, like, hey, like, we did this test and we validated it with this other test. I was like, that's pretty sweet. Just like I got this STI in my other stall. one of the customer's concerns is he says that it every once in a while he gets a rich code. He says the car throws a rich code every once in a while, and he's already put coils and plugs in it. So with my 5 gas, I can see how it's running rich. And on the scan tool, the car doesn't think it's running rich. Pretty interesting, huh? So I got one piece of test equipment in the tailpipe reading the combustion gases, and it's saying, hey, the lambda on this thing is like 0.991. It's like we're running a little bit rich, but the car thinks it's running full stoic 1 lambda. Hey, now I know what's going on. This car has something lying to it. I gotta find out who's not telling the truth. Turns out we have a slow reacting oxygen sensor that's happening every once in a while. After a couple hours of the front O2 sensor being on, it reacts just a few milliseconds slower than it should. And because it's reacting slower, it's telling the engine computer how the burn sequence is doing on the fire cycle. So the engine computer is now become a garbage in, garbage out system. So we're waiting to see if the guy wants to put an AFR sensor in it. That's the front O2. That's the wideband. I got a lot of people who are very angry that I just generically call the pre-cat oxygen sensor the AFR. Well, when you do this for so long, you just start shorthanding some stuff. I do apologize. That 5 gas also helped me out on another customer's car that was throwing intermittent P0420s. And somebody already sold her a catalytic and 202 sensors. Oh, doesn't that just suck balls? So someone just sold you $3,000 worth of work, and that P0420 comes back? I'd be pissed off too. So I got my 5 gas in there, and my 5 gas is telling me like, hey, this car is running a little bit lean, and there's some oxygen. There's some oxygen in this tailpipe that shouldn't be there. I mean, there's always going to be just a little bit, but some oxygen, but no hydrocarbons. Hydrocarbons was good. Hydrocarbons is unspent fuel. So I suspected that there was an exhaust leak somewhere, just a really tiny one. So I smoked the exhaust system, and around a couple of welds where the flex pipes were at. Yep. There's just a tiny little bit of a leak. So what's happening is when she goes into a deceleration mode, there's less pressure in here in the exhaust. Outside pressure, atmosphere pressure is higher, so it rushes in. That's fresh air. It's getting read by the oxygen sensors. A recipe for disaster. It's just a shame. Too many people see that. Too many technicians see that P0420 code they automatically just think, oh, I need a catalytic. And if it's not a catalytic, then it's those damn oxygen sensors. Not the case. Oh, okay, yeah. You're asking what's the problem on this Ascent? So the the center differential clutch pack, which is this thing right here, the clutches are slipping. So we're gonna put a new clutch pack assembly in there. It's a fairly easy job to do. You, if you're trying to do this yourself and you didn't have any special tooling to measure out the torsion bearing, you could cheat death and try and just reuse the same bearing that's in there. But I like to measure it every time. Measuring it isn't that bad of a problem. It's just the fact that you do need to have some some setup equipment. And I understand that that setup equipment is not readily available. I need to go get some brake parts cleaner. There we are. It's kind of low. But the only thing you really want to use to clean the mating surface on these aluminum facings is a plastic scraper and a Scotch Brite pad. That's all I'm using. No wire wheels, no nothing. I don't want to mess up this machine to the point to where it could cause a micro leak. Because if it starts leaking after you reseal it and you reseal it again, then that means somewhere in your mating surface something's boogered up. Let me refill this. Uh-oh. A little thingamajigger isn't working right. How are we supposed to get brake cleaner? That's not bad. We got one of these brake cleaner refill stations. I think it has a problem. It's not putting juice in and the barrel's full. Oh, there we go. Now it's filling up. I think they switched out barrels and somebody didn't prime the system correctly. Yeah. Got me a good 10 ounces of brake cleaner here. If you're running a shop and you don't have these refillable containers, because you can get brake cleaner in like a 50-gallon drum, and then you get an auto refill station with it, bro, you save so much money. I love this thing. I fought for this refillable brake cleaner machine for years, and they kept saying, no, no, people are going to steal it. We're not going to make any money. We're going to lose money. We finally got some new management that heard me out. First month, pure profit. We paid the machine off and the 2 barrels of brake cleaner we bought in the first month. Because the problem with these little cans right here is you don't get your money's worth. Like this thing, what is this? 14 ounces. You pay like what? $5 for it? This holds the same amount right here. It's refillable. You can refill this for 75 cents. And when the aerosol can, how many times have you used one of these aerosol cans and there's still like an ounce in there, but you can't get it out because the pressure's low? Not with not with that other one. I can just easily add more to it. So, money, 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 money. I love saving money. All right, another reason why I want to be using a scraper to clean this off is because I don't want those chunks of glue inside my transmission here. No way. Who's saying that? Comes correct. Yeah, yeah. There's some people who have found a way to just add a little bit more air to the can. But when the pressure and the fluid level get low in my refillable can, I just walk right over to the refill station, top it off in 20 seconds. And I go about my day. But I get it. It's a little pricey to get into. The refill station, it's about a $400 setup. Then you got to buy a 50-gallon drum. Okay, so that's a couple $100 more. Then each one of those refillable containers that are compatible with the refill station, they're like $60, $70. So we were lucky. We were lucky enough that one of the vendors that we use, I explained to them what it was, and we kind of set up a thing where we said, listen, you help us out with these reusable containers and the refill station, and we'll start buying these chemicals from you in bulk. And so we kind of got a agreement. We got a gentleman's agreement of they bought all the reusable stuff up front, and then over the course of a year, we're going to pay it off at no interest. So they helped us get into it. So if you've ever neglected to get into it because there's too much upfront cost, talk to your vendor and see if your vendor has one of those services where they can help you pay it off without any interest. Because obviously, you're buying more product. You're buying more product from them, and that's what they want to do. So it's beneficial for them to help you get into it. It's like the same thing with some of the flush machines we have in the shop. Those flush machines are like $5,000, but the companies who sell the chemicals for those flush machines, they come by and they say, "Hey, we'll front the cost of the flush machines if you buy our chemicals from us." So it's a win-win. You save a lot of money on machines, and the machine is somebody else's problem. if there's a mechanical failure with it, because you don't technically own it. Obviously, if your people at the shop are using it and abusing it, they'll probably break contract and run. But we don't have too many yahoos here. No one that would like intentionally break something. All right. All right. So this part goes in my tail housing, and we want to make sure that that gets all the way down in there. There we go. Just using the butt of my screwdriver to get it in there, because I got to measure that. Yeah. Hey, yeah. Someone's saying, yeah, if you're in your home garage, all you got are spray cans. Yeah, that's what it is. I'm just talking about people who might be doing this in a shop professionally. This is a really good way to save money. All right, so here's our clutch packs right here. They're all held in by a spring clamp. When we do this job, we just change out this whole assembly right here because when these clutch packs start failing, they start rubbing the walls on the inside of this gear, and then they don't sit correctly anymore. So because of that, we're replacing the whole thing. And it kind of balances out with labor and parts. It's one of those situations where it's cheaper just to replace the whole thing because then you're not including the labor of tearing something down and replacing a couple of components. We did initially do just clutches only, and we weren't doing these clutch assemblies. And we would see these cars like 20,000 miles later. So think of it like a manual transmission, where if you got one gear that goes out on one shaft, anything that gear touched, you need to replace. All right, so I'm going to be using this paper here as my clean space. There's measured bearings that go in here. There's like 5 of them, different sizes that it could be. So if you're going to do this job, I just tell people, hey, like the bearings are only like $8 a piece. Just buy all 5 of them and return the one that you don't use. Because why do you want to tear something apart, measure it, go to the parts counter, find out they don't have it in stock? You know what I mean? And now you got a transmission torn apart for 3-4 days while you're waiting for it to come in. That's my theory. So when I do this, I just order all the available shims that I need. So now we're ready to start putting some seals on this transfer-driven clutch pack. We got these little plastic seal rings right here. There's your part number. That is 31377 Alpha Alpha 490. And they're going to go right here on this splined shaft. They do have a little break in them like that so they can get over the lips. And we have 3 of them that we have to install very gently. I don't recommend reusing them because, again, they wear into the component. And these little rings here, couple dollars a piece, you know? You're going through all this hard work, spending all this money. And when it comes to this type of repair, yeah, you have to have that discipline where you say, all right, you get new seals. Well, that's the discipline that I teach, folks. I'm sure if you're on a budget and you were like, Taco Bell burrito or replace the seals and do it right, I would understand. Taco Bell burritos are pretty tasty. I swear, every time I'm working with gear oil or transmission fluid, my eye gets itchy. All right. Mr. Clip, there you go. There. 3 new ones like that. We're going to temporarily install this. There we go. Splined up nice. Now we got to measure the distance from here to here. Louis says, I've been rebuilding automatic transmission 47 years. What are you doing? I'm just changing out a center clutch pack and a tail housing. Good on you for being a transmission repair technician. That is a skill set that I would very much like to have, but unfortunately, my garage would rather just subcontract out automatic transmission repair. They don't mind us doing manual transmissions, but automatics, you know, they just don't like the space that they take up. Because the couple times that I did do it, I had my transmission repair table out, and I had workbenches everywhere. Like I had an 8-foot long workbench, and they're like, "What the hell are you doing?" I'm like, "This is how you repair transmissions." Well, this is how I was taught to repair transmissions. And you get an 8-foot long table that can hold any kind of messy grease you make, and you take it apart and you just go down the line. And when you start putting it back together, you go back down the table in reverse order. And they just didn't like the mess that it was making, or they didn't like they just didn't like seeing that, which is understandable. I know that there's other transmissions like big Ford bell housings. I know that you can stand them up vertically with a bench stand. Yeah, there's those. Okay, so this is one of my measuring devices right here. I've already pre-measured it. And where's my calipers? And I'm just measuring from this to here now. So because I know what this measurement is, I can measure the difference between here and here now. All right, so what do I got? 68.14. 68.08. 68.02. All right, so I'm going to take the average of all those. Write it down on my box. 68. Okay. Got my tail housing. Again, I got my adapter plate. I know the thickness of it, so I can take the offset. Zero my gauge out. And again, make sure that that is in there all the way. Sometimes you just got to give it a little bit of a headbutt with a screwdriver. Not too much. 78.51. 77.86. 77.91. 77.95. Ah, I goofed that one up. All right, do it again. I want my average. I want 3 average readings that are consistent. There we go. 77.87. 77.9. All right, cool. Yeah, I like these numbers now. Cool. Okay, so I got 77.0 tail. Okay, so we're doing all of that to measure out this bearing and find out which selectable bearing I got to use. That's all. 99% of the time, it's going to be the same one that I take out of there, to be honest. But I had one that was different. Ferguson, do I have a windshield guy at this dealership? Yeah, yeah. We don't do glass. So we have a contract agreement with a windshield company that shows up uh, 2 times a week, and it's just more cost effective to do it that way because you can keep your technicians on cars, diagnosing problems, addressing customer concerns, doing services. And then you just got that one windshield guy that can come out and knock out 10 cars super fast. Okay. We're gonna do some scribbling down. Okay, so height A. So my tail is 77.90 minus 15 minus 160 minus C. What is C? C was 68.05 minus 0.20. Okay. 27.9 minus 62.9 160 minus 68.05. I gotta check one of my numbers. I don't like my math. Came out negative. Oh yeah, that's where my bad math came from. I measured this wrong. Okay, so that should have been 126. Scroll that down. 126 minus 68. That's looking better. Okay. So I got 62.9 minus 57.95 plus 4.2. Okay. That wants me to jump to that size. Gotta double check my math here. So I am changing shims. So I'm gonna check my math here. That's correct. $77.9 minus Okay, that's right. 62.9. Okay, then we're going to take the 126 and we're going to subtract the 68.09. Um, 80.2. So now I got 62.9 minus 57.95. That's 495. Perfect. All right. So we're just going to scale up a little bit. I got to figure out what that part number is now. So what's the... Okay. So, my cheat sheet is wrong. Where's my calipers? There's my calipers. Plastic. Okay. Okay, so that's 450. I don't want that one. This is 0.2 thick. Okay, that's a 4.2. Yeah, that's a 4. That's 4.2. I got a 4, so I need to go up to like a 4.1. Okay, that's a 5. I don't want a 5. That's also a 5. How thick is this plastic? 0.2 thick. So far. Might be the one I need. That's a 3/8. That's a 5. Okay, cool. This was the one that I wanted. Yep, perfect. Yep, so we're just going to shim up just a little bit. And be aware that when you're measuring these part numbers here, okay, the part number does not reflect the shim thickness. I think that was kind of silly on Subaru's part, and it's like that for a lot of our selectable shims. I really think that the last 3 numbers should be the size of the shim. That would just make it so freaking easy, wouldn't it? But they don't. So anyhow, we're going to move up, and if you're measuring these, or you have somebody over the counter measuring them for you, make sure that they're not measuring them in the bag, okay? I measure them, they may not know this, but see, like, this one's in the bag. I'm going to measure it. It's 4.4 millimeters. All right, well, how thick is 2 layers of that bag? 0.2 millimeters. So that's why I was taking the difference of. So make sure they do that if they're trying to help you out. And each one of these bags, they're different. Some of the bags are like 0.1 millimeters thick. Some of them are 0.2 millimeters thick. Some of them are 0.3 millimeters thick. It's very annoying. So somebody could just honestly be trying to help you, but they may not know that they're these things are measured to a specific height or a specific thickness. And they could be screwing you over. All right, I'm just going to be using a little bit of some assembly paste here. My transmission guy knows what this whack-a-mole lubricant should be, right, Mr. Vaseline? What year is that car? I have a 2021 Touring. Think it's a time bomb? Dang. Oh, this is a 2020. It shouldn't be a time bomb, man. It should be a good car. Like I was telling one earlier, if you think your center diff is having some problems, all you got to do is do like a really slow, like 5 mile an hour figure eight in a parking lot. And if the car is kind of going clunk, 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 clunk as it's making those sharp turn maneuvers, then yeah, there's a problem here. There's either a problem here mechanically, or you have a problem with the line pressure out of the control valve body that's causing the issue. So you need to have somebody diagnose it for you. Get that spline in there. I don't know why I bothered putting my head on. All right, get all my parking paw stuff here. Don't forget to put your parking paws in. And we got to make sure we put them in correctly. This is the first one I did of these years and years ago. I was so like, ooh, transmissions. I didn't assemble this correctly. So the car drove just fine. But when I put it in park, it still rolled. So I got to go back into her. So I was working late that day. This is gonna be easier. Woo. Yeah. So that ride's there. Get my spring on. There we go. All right, so parking pole rides on this. This is our shift rod, and you'll see it in action pretty soon. I need to defeat that gear just a little bit. The car should be in neutral when you do this. My mistake. We'll fix that right now. I'm just gonna disconnect it. There we go. So we are in. Nice. My spring feels good. It's not gonna get crushed in the housing. All right, so I should be able to demonstrate this. So I turn the wheels, okay? So because I'm turning the wheels, it's turning this, which turns this. And right now, we're not in park, but if I want to put the vehicle in park, this rod is going to poke out and it's going to push this up. Come on. There we go. So it pushes that up, and then the car settles and it clicks in. And that's how your car locks and stays in place when you put it in there. It's just this. Easy peasy. If you guys didn't see that too clearly, I got a short that has a very close-up video of what I'm doing there. All right, wipe off the mating surface there. Now, this technically says you're supposed to like put this in the tail housing and then assemble it. No way. You're never going to stab all these clutch packs correctly. So stab it in there, line up your clutch packs. Then we're not going to forget this, our selectable shim, which has to be right here inside of our tail housing. And if you're doing this like I am, you're going to need to have just a little bit of assembly lube on there. Not too much, okay? Just a thin amount because we don't want to contaminate our transmission fluid. A lot of old school transmission techs liked using Vaseline. just the smear of it, just to kind of give it a sticky feeling. Some people like using CRC assembly lube just because it's super thick and pasty. Don't use Lucas. Lucas is not good at all for this. Yes, I've had a job where a 1 hour job turned into a 3 day job, and that was murderous. All right, so now we're going to glue her up, and I'm reusing a tube of glue from another job. There it is, right here. We're going to be using 3-bond 1215 low viscosity glue. That is the preferred glue to use. And once we get it glued up and bolted up, we will be done. I'm going to let the glue settle for about an hour before I put fluid in it. So we're getting close to getting done. Not too bad, too. It's going on 5 o'clock Central Standard Time, so I'm making good headway on this. If you do have this glue, and once you open it, like, I honestly say this tube is good for about a week, even with the cap on. I really wish they sold this tube in a smaller portion. So I do everything I can to keep this glue from separating. But man, this stuff is stupid expensive. All right, cool. It didn't separate, but you don't really need that much. Okay, so I'm just kind of improvising a bead on here. You don't need to have a huge bead. It's just that the little squirter adapter that was on here walked away from me. But it's important that you have a nice little round bead to squish. You don't want to do any finger painting, because if you finger paint it, then you don't get a good squish and you don't create that bead. Because the objective is we want that glue to squish and lay inside the track here to create a gasket barrier. If you've already flattened it with your finger to smooth out because it looks pretty to your eye, you're defeating all your hard work. So when we go to put this on, we're going to run into a couple of complications. First complication is going to be this pin right here for the parking post. We want to make sure it's all the way in. Second complication we're going to run into is the guide pins. And I had one guide pin that came out with the tail housing, one guide pin that stayed on the main case. All right, so be aware of that. If your guide pins are not in there at all, like if they're just completely gone, let's say you're going into this and you go, holy crap, there's no guide pins, buy some guide pins. Okay, buy some guide pins, make some guide pins. You need those because otherwise you're going to get some chattering back here and you're going to think it's broken, but it's not. There's a lot of drivability issues that I've resolved on transmissions by just looking around the main cases and looking for guide pins, because they'll say like, hey, like I just got back from another shop. They said I just had it at another shop a couple months ago and they did this, 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 and this. I'm like, so I look at it and be like, all your guide pins are missing. So you need to take it back to them and tell them, put your guide pins in, and then we'll reassess the situation. Because that other shop was trying to say, like, well, we tried. Now you need a new transmission altogether. And that's not right. Beautiful. I like that. That's the one thing when I went to like a transmission class, I was really shocked that they weren't teaching that about the guide pin. And I picked that up when I did a 1 week apprenticeship at a transmission shop. I I was so hurting for some real transmission knowledge, especially on the automatic side, that I found a legit shop in town, made friends with them over the course of a few months, and then eventually I asked that owner, I said, "Hey, can I come in and work for free for a week?" I says, I'll do any kind of cleaning work you want me to do. I just need to get some hands-on tear down and shake the bugs out." And I was already friends with a couple of the builders in there, and they said, "Yeah, we'll be happy to have a bitch boy." So I made them some hours. I took vacation, but I got some education in return. Worked out really good. I mean, those guys, they bought me lunches and beer every day, so that was pretty nice. It's like every day I showed up, they had like, "Yeah, I got you some breakfast, man. I got you some lunch," and then after work, they'd be like, "Let's go get some beers." All right, I'm not gonna torque these with my gun. I'm just gonna run them down. 'It's one of the things I like about the Milwaukee guns is they have that. See, as soon as it detects any kind of resistance, it stops. So even if it sounded like I was impacting it down, it probably didn't get more than like 5, 6 foot-pounds. Perfect. I think we're going to torque these down to 24 newtons. Let me double check. 25 newton meters. All right. A lot of you keep asking me if is it worth it getting an electronic torque wrench. I say if you're using it every single day, like I do, yeah, it's pretty nice. Um, I get I get the biggest benefit out of it when you're doing like torque to yield. So if you got to torque something and then turn it like so many degrees, that's where it's really beneficial because the degrees are built into it. I don't have to hook up a another tool to measure my degrees or try and mark it out with a protractor and scratch my socket side. Because that's how we used to do it in the past. Like if they would say like, "Hey, turn it 90 degrees," you would put a scratch on your socket and then you would put a mark on the part that you were torquing down, and that was good enough. But I also like that when I'm torquing in degrees with this, it still tells me what my finishing torque value was. Um, I like the I like the lights on the side, so it tells me when I'm coming up on torque, so I can slow down my throw, and I could really nail down the torque. You don't have with a clicker, you would have to zero it at the end of every day. With this one, you just turn it off. The electronic one has a counter in there that tells you um, when you have to get it calibrated. So this thing says it can do like 5,000 clicks, and I've had it for 5 years now, and still hasn't. I think I have like somewhere in like the sub 3,000s on it. It's buried in the menus. I'll see if I can find it. I asked the Snap-on guy like, "Is it ready?" And he looked at it and he goes, "Nope. Still got a lot of life on that sucker." You can do your offsets. So usually when you're doing your offsets, you have to do the equation by hand. But with this one, you can just plug in the offset and it does it for you automatically. That's pretty nice. So it says here that I got 28,899 cycles on it. Is that correct? It was calibrated. Oh, it even tells you right here. It's calibrated in 2014 of August 3rd. Oh, I guess I should tell the Snap-on guy to send this thing in. It says I only got about 1,200 clicks left on it. Yeah, there it is. But I got all kinds of torque wrenches, folks. I got split beams. I got clickers. So that's it. All I gotta do is put my drive shaft back in, put my frame back on, wait about an hour, and I'm gonna put fluid in it. Some people throw fluid in these right away, but I really like the give the glue a fighting chance to really seal up well. See, like on the outside, I just touched it, still fresh. So that's my practice. I'll find something else to do. I mean, I got an STI over here I got to be working on. I got a legacy with a light bulb issue I got to be working on. So I'll probably take a break, finish up this STI, drive it out, and then bring the legacy in and see if I got the energy to do a live stream with that, okay? So I might go into another live stream tonight. Depends on how my voice feels. It's a Friday after all, and I'll be giving up my happy hour for you. Let's check out chat. Are we going to see Test Drive Live? No, sir. Sorry, Mr. MG. This glue's got a set up for an hour, but the test drive, I mean, there's no programming of the transmission. Just let the glue drive top off the fluid and repeat the figure 8 test. And if it doesn't make any clunking noise with the figure 8 test, it's good to go. But go ahead and just check in with me. I'll make a short video just for you, okay? So tonight you might see something, all right? I'll hook you up so that way you can check in later. DNM 101, does my digital torque wrench do angles? Yeah, it does angles, it does offset. You can put preset torque patterns in there, everything. Like I said, if you're using torque wrenches every single day, it's worth investing in. It really, really is. But if you're just doing onesie twosie things every once in a while, then most likely you can just get away with a split beam or a clicker. Because honestly, these electronic torque wrenches, they're not cheap. Okay, they start at like $400 for a 3/8, and you can go up to $800 for a half inch. Um, if you some people get really lucky and they find them used at pawn shops. So if you find like a Snap-on one that's at a pawn shop and it's in like the sub 200s, it would be worth buying and then just sending in for recal. just so you have peace of mind. Because when you send it in for recal too, they also uh, rebuild the ratchet head, and calibration is super cheap. An invitation for death. Any mechanic vacancy, I have 12 years experience. Hey, you can email me, and I'll forward you my boss's information if you're interested. Okay. We can talk offline to find out if this is the kind of place where you want to work, because we're a high turnover shop as far as vehicles coming in and coming out. So you got to get on them, you got to stay on them, and you got to get them out. So it's not unusual for a technician to work on about 9 or 10 cars a day. Until you work up to that pace where, like I am, you get two. When you start doing nothing but diag and heavy line, you get a second stall. So I have a diag stall and I have a heavy line stall, but I have to make it count. Like I have to work for these stalls all the time because they're always asking, should we take one stall away from Joe and hire another guy? And then I have to remind him, I says, well, somebody else is going to have to do my diag for me. Then they go, oh, yeah, you're right. Nobody likes to do diag like you. I love doing diagnostics. It's my favorite. Anything to play with a voltmeter or an oscilloscope, I'm in it. Learning with one, no gasket. Yeah, we're just using liquid gasket. It's not unusual to go liquid gasket on 90% of these vehicles now. It's just so much cheaper to stock one tube of this in a drawer when somebody shows up and they say, "Hey, I'm going to do an engine reseal." All right, well, here's uh, here's a couple of gaskets and do the rest with this instead of having to have all these bits and pieces and stock it in a warehouse. So, liquid gasket maker has been doing wonders over the years. A lot of people hate on it, but honestly, the death of liquid gasket is not keeping up with your oil change intervals. Because I've talked about it in another stream, but I'll just hit on it. I'll paraphrase it. When you run your oil so long, it eventually just becomes acidic, okay? And it starts degrading your seals and it starts eating away at your gasket maker. So I always stress to people that you should be changing your oil when it's still working at 100%. Don't wait for it to start dying. Change it before it starts dying. And the best way you can find out what your oil life is like is to go to blackstonelabs.com, order a couple of oil test kits, and what I do is, let's say you got a car that has a 6,000 mile oil change interval. I take a 2 ounces of oil sample out at 3,000 miles, and then I take some at 5,000 miles, and they give me an explanational breakdown saying like, hey, this oil's still good, or they'll say like, hey, you should change this oil now. And now I know based on my driving habits what my oil change interval should be. And we can talk all about that in another stream. Yeah, learning with Juan, he says, oh, it's called liquid gasket. I call it liquid gasket, but its proper name is RTV. Okay, RTV is the appropriate name for this, and there's 3 or 4 different types of RTV based on its application. Okay, so the one that I used in this application, this is a low viscosity one. Um, okay, then there's this one right here. Okay, this one is a high viscosity one, and this is one that we use for transmission pans right here. Okay, because it makes a better bead. Then there is, where's the last one at? I just had it. Uh-huh. Okay, this is the last variant that we use. Okay, this is 1217H. This is the one that's kind of in the middle. This is what we do um, all our engine work with. But always, always reference your service information. to find out what grade of RTV you should be using because there is no one size fits most. That's a lie. All right, don't let the parts store guy say, "Oh, this works on everything." Nope. Read the manual. Okay, you can, guys. Honestly, guys and gals, honestly, if you're working on, it doesn't matter if you're working on a Ford, a Mercury, Chrysler, or Jeep, you can actually get dealership service manuals with a subscription. Okay, it's usually 20, 30 bucks, and um, they'll give you a 2-day pass, and you'll have access to all the manuals, all the procedures that we have to follow, and it'll tell you specifically what grade RTV you should using. A lot of times the RTV and the manual will be followed by a part number. So if you're following a Ford catalog, it's going to have a Ford part number, but there's also followed by it, it'll give you an equivalency. All right, so if you don't have a Ford dealership near you where you could get that RTV, then you could get the equivalent one at your local auto parts store. But basically, just you want to look for like Ford Tech Info subscription. It'll take you to a Ford website. Oh yeah, MG is talking about. He's called. What'd you call this? My SMG RTV gun. Yes, I do a lot of engine reseals, a lot of transmission reseals, and with a traditional caulking gun like this, over the past 10 years, I have just developed some arthritis just from doing this a lot because yeah, I know there's those workout tools where you can squeeze, 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 but that's all you're doing is you squeeze, release, squeeze, release. With that caulking gun, trying to hold that bead, it's just constant tension like this, holding it, and I was just starting to get a lot of forearm pain up here, shoulder pain from compensating with the pain right here. And when I saw this, I was like, this is amazing. I can get a perfect bead every single time. It doesn't hurt my grip. It's not, I'm actually making money off of it. I love it. Who is this? Tokay Time? There you go. I'll butcher your name for free. He's like, say my name for YouTube. Bros, I don't read names well. So, yeah, 2K Time. That's you. So, all right. So, chat's getting feisty. I'm gonna take off. I told you all stick around. Maybe in an hour, we're gonna get on this legacy and we're gonna find out why these light bulbs are blowing. Okay. Thanks for hanging out. Thanks for keeping me company. You all have a great weekend. I'll catch up with you later. Juan, thanks for hanging out and being a champ, dude. You're amazing.